We'll recognize you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk about PERS today and plans to administer. However, I have to admit that given the recent attention lately, you guys could have given me a pass and it would have been okay.
We're only going to stick to your vote.
Works for me.
And if you'll pull that microphone just a little bit closer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. But here we are, and today with me today are at the table Greg Gregory, Deputy Administrator and PERS Chief Operating Officer, as well as Ward Tingle, PERS Chief Investment Officer. And now, all of you know me, and you know that I've been with PERS now over 30 years. And I have a passion for the business of providing retirement security to those who give their careers as public service. And now today I intend to give you just an update on the fund and touch on the PERS budget, which I know y'all really aren't interested in. But given the recent rhetoric in the media in conjunction with the creation of the PERS Study Commission and the continued focus and questions related to the sustainability of PERS, I thought I would leave most of the time allotted to me today so that I may address any questions or issues that you have. As you are aware and know, the creation of this commission has created a lot of concern on the part of active and retired members and how those recommendations may affect them. Now, uncertainty of what will be recommended and the impact can cause as much, if not more, anxiety than actually knowing what is going to occur. And you've been provided with an envelope with several pieces of information relative to PERS. The first is a replica of a dollar bill, and you saw that last year. But it shows the revenue flows for PERS for the past 20-year period and lists some pertinent facts, and it highlights the fact that 54% of the revenue used to finance benefits has come from investments. Second piece that you've got is a booklet entitled Who Are the Faces of PERS? And this just showcases some of our members and retirees and demonstrates how through their public service, they enrich the lives of all Mississippians and the impact that they and PERS have on the state of Mississippi on a day-to-day basis. Then the PERS 2013 budget request and PERS facts and figure booklet, as well as just a sheet on normal cost. And I'm not going to go over all of this in detail, but I would like to take just a moment to talk about the importance of the benefits that we provide and highlight some of the statistics and demographics for you. We now provide payments to almost 88,000 retirees each month. The average benefit, including the cost of living adjustment, is just over $19,000 a year. 23% of that $19,000 represents the cumulative cost of living adjustment paid to maintain the purchasing power since retirement. Without that cost of living adjustment, the average benefit would be around $15,000. And not only do these payments represent retirement security for thousands of retired public employees, keeping many of them off public assistance, they also act as an economic engine to the state of Mississippi. Almost 93% of the payments that we make, or almost $1.7 billion, remains in the state of Mississippi.
Pat, if I could interrupt just, I was trying to take some notes. The average of the 88,000 employees around the state, the average annual income from retirement is $19,000.
Right. I think it's actually $19,256 or something like that. But
not a grand fortune.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Now, with these payments, retirees purchase goods and services, creating and supporting jobs, increasing profits and wages in the private sector, and increasing taxes and fees in the public sector. Now, in the PERS Facts and Figure booklet, it provides extensive demographic and statistical information for you, but I don't plan to go into all of that today. However, I'd like to remind you that we are responsible for the administration of 25 programs and plans, and this is on page 8 of that Facts and Figures booklet, And we serve a membership of more than 373,000. The plans include the Public Employees Retirement System, the Mississippi Highway Safety Patrol Retirement System, 19 closed municipal plans, and these were plans that were established by legislation prior to PERS being established, and then were closed and the administration was transferred to PERS. The Supplemental Legislative Retirement Plan. We're also responsible for the administration of the Mississippi Deferred Compensation Plan and Trust, which is a supplemental 457 defined contribution plan with assets of $1.3 billion and over 40,000 participants. We sponsor retiree medical and life insurance plans for those who are not covered, generally for those who are not covered by the state and school employees insurance plan. And we are responsible for the administration of the optional retirement plan, which is a defined contribution plan available to teaching faculty and certain administrative positions at the institutions of higher learning in lieu of their membership in PERS. Now, the graph on page 10 of the Facts and Figures booklet illustrates the growth in the membership over the past 10 years. And as of June 30, there were a little more than 163,000 active members covered by plans that we administer. This, however, represents a decrease in the total number of active members for the second consecutive years and follows a national trend related to public sector employment. And in fact, a recent report from the Census Bureau has stated that state and local governments lost more than 200,000 jobs between 2009 and 2010. Now, in the investment section, you will note that our net assets as of June 30, 2011 were at $20.8 billion. And our rate of return for FY 2011 was 25.4%. So for the second straight year, our investment return has exceeded our 8% actuarial assumption. Now, our 2013 budget request is included in a separate booklet, and it outlines our needs. We're requesting an operating budget of $13.6 million, most of which is in the category of personal services. Now, the budget represents less than 0.1% of our total assets and is less than 1% of our total expenditures. It's also important to remember that our operating budget is funded from the trust, and we generate more money from ancillary income such as securities lending and commission recapture than we spend on our administrative budget. We receive no general fund monies, and whatever we do not spend remains in the trust. We are conscientious in our expenditures and take our responsibilities of trust very seriously. In fact, we treat our expenditures as if the funds belong to us, which actually, in essence, they do. Each one of us has a vested interest in how we manage PERS. There's also been a lot of talk lately about the 13th check and what it does. And while the amount is not tied to the change in inflation, and many do receive it in a lump sum, it is really provided as a cost of living adjustment. And it's intended to maintain an individual's purchasing power once retired. Now, from 1966 to 1994, the only way that an individual could receive that cost of living adjustment was in a lump sum. Since then it was changed, and individuals may receive it in a monthly amount. But to kind of point out the importance of the cost of living adjustment, I recently learned that we have 3 retirees who will be turning 100 in the month of October. We already have about 62 of them that are already 100. These individuals worked an average of 23 years in public service. They've been retired an average of 34 years, and their average base monthly benefit is $280. Their cost of living adjustment increases their annual benefit, their average monthly benefit, to $762. So without a cost of living adjustment, these individuals would receive, on average, a little less than $3,400 annually in a retirement benefit. This illustrates the fact that the COLA is essential to ensuring that individuals are able to live with some dignity once they retire. And while it has been reported...
Can you tell me when that COLA started? Was it an increase over the years that we've been trying to adjust that?
The cost of living adjustment first started in 1966.
66, okay.
And it has changed throughout that, and I think I have to see exactly which page it is in the facts and figures booklet, but it is in here. But it was started in 1966, and in 1980, the COLA was tied to the annual consumer price index. In 1985, it was changed to provide for an additional variable discretionary COLA of up to 1.5%. So in 1980, it was changed to up to 2.5% based on the change in the cost of living, the CPI. And in 1985, it was then a discretionary amount of an additional 1.5% was added based on earnings of the system. So a maximum of up to 4% could be given. Then
does it help your accounting system or your controlling system to have it in a 13th check? I would have just thought that perhaps in 1966 someone in the accounting department said it would be easier for us to cut one check at the end than rather to try to prorate it. But I may be wrong about that.
No, I think the reason really had to do with the fact that back then it was really just awarded on an annual basis, and it wasn't necessarily a cumulative amount that was given every year. The cost of living adjustment now, and I think a lot of people just, it's because it was received from 66 to 94 in a lump sum, and the nomenclature surrounding the cost of living adjustment is 13th check. People just have latched onto that and think of that as the way, to get it. From a true cost of living adjustment, you would expect to be added to the monthly base and just increase your monthly benefit each year.
I guess what I'm saying, this is not in any way to be perceived as some type of bonus because it occurs at the end of the year. This is a COLA. This is a cost of living adjustment.
That is correct. It is a cost of living adjustment, unfortunately, because it is repaid in a lump sum. A lot of people do look at it as a bonus.
Thank you. Representative Pop.
Thank you, Governor. Patricia, if we cross over the chilling waters of Jordan in June and we get a 13th check in December, does the beneficiary get that 6 months? Or how does that work? You don't get that in Social Security.
It depends on the option that you have selected. If you have selected the maximum option, which is the formula, say, is 2% for the first 25 years. So under the maximum option, you would get 50% of your salary. If you selected that and you die in June, then you would not receive that cost of living adjustment. The statute says that you have to be living July 1st in order to receive that. Now, if you selected one of the options that provides for a beneficiary, say a 50% joint and survivor option, and at which case we would reduce, you wouldn't get that full 50%, you would get some actuarial reduction based on your age and your beneficiary's age, and you died in June, the beneficiary would get a cost of living adjustment, but it would be on that reduced amount, not on your amount. However, if you were living July the 1st, it would be on your amount. There's a lot of moving parts when you start talking about benefits.
Don't remove the ventilator on June 30th.
Right. There you go.
All right.
And while it has been reported that $400 million is the amount of the COLA that was paid, I want to clarify that by stating that that is the cumulative amount projected to be paid this year, not the increase in the cost of living adjustment from last year. The actual increase in the cost of living adjustment from last year is just a little bit less than $41 million. Now, as I said, and you've heard, we've been the focus of a lot of attention lately. PERS funding and sustainability has been called into question. And this is primarily a result of the fact that the contribution rate to fund the plan has increased from a total of 17% in 2004 to 21.93% effective January of 2012. And unfortunately, even with the positive returns for the last 2 years, we expect that the actuary will recommend a further increase for the fiscal 2013 year. The graph on page 35 of your booklet illustrates the projected increase. And you will note that it projects the rate to decrease in FY 2015, illustrating that time, in conjunction with the changes that have already been made to PERS, should address the current funding issues. It should also be noted that when you saw this graph 2 years ago, the employer rate was projected to increase to more than 18%, and it's now projected to top at 14.35%, reflecting the impact of positive market returns as well as shifting some of the costs to today's employees. Sustainability has been defined as the capacity to endure. The most popular definition can be traced to a 1987 UN conference, where sustainable developments were defined as those that meet present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Now, you've heard me say PERS remains financially stable and the retirement benefits to our members and retirees are secure. However, as with some other sectors of the economy, PERS will continue to feel the effects of what some are calling the Great Recession, and this will continue to put upward pressure on the contribution rates. Changes have been made to ensure the sustainability of the plan, increasing the vesting form period, increasing retirement eligibility combined with a reduction in the benefit formula, stricter provisions relative to reemployment, and increased employee contributions will, given time, allow PERS to right the ship. Now, at this time, I'd like to end my prepared remarks and address any questions or issues that you may have.
Representative Flags first.
Thank you, Governor. Can I address the chair, Governor?
Pardon me?
Can I address the chair? You?
Yes, sir.
It was my understanding that I had requested that the commission that was formed through the executive order of the governor come.
We contacted Mayor Slogel and asked him to come. I thought that might be a possibility, and apparently the responsibilities he has as mayor says has prevented him from traveling to Jackson this morning. He just could not get here.
Well, Governor, as much as the magnitude of this issue, can I request that this committee, as it recess at the end of day, come back before November 8th and address the commission at its convenience between that time?
I think the commission has regularly scheduled meetings. It might be a better opportunity for us to attend one of their meetings than to call this commission together. I'm not offended or opposed by that, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to determine if we have the authority to do it, and I'd like to talk to some of the committee meetings before we make that,
and
individually make that commitment to you.
Well, let me elaborate on that. The reason why I say that is because in my 12 years on this committee, anything that of great public interest and importance, we have had special meetings, particularly Medicaid, dealing with PLAD. There are some other issues with the Department of Human Service. We have had meetings, and I know that the schedule only allows them to come back on November 14th. And I don't know how to say this without being political.
Sure.
But the election of all the House, all the Senate members, and of the statewide elected officials is November 8th. And I just believe that the public ought to have access to the direction of this state as relates to the most important issue of this state prior to it.
I would be glad to try to call this committee back together for a special presentation. I'll certainly look into that. I just want to make sure that we have the authority to do that. And of course, we're dealing with per diem issues and a few travel challenges.
I have never worked.
As I can finish, I think if those of us would be certainly willing to come and delighted to hear any presentation made by that committee, we'll begin to work on a schedule to do that.
Well, if there's any accommodation, I've never worked free in my 24 years of this legislature, but I will come glad free that day.
That's a good beginning.
Thank you.
Chairman Holland. Oh, I'm sorry. He's not finished, Chairman Holland. We're going to let Chairman Flaggs continue.
And as you say, this has been widely discussed. I've mentioned a lot about the barber shop, but I'm telling you, I cannot go in Walmart without one person asking about the commission. This commission that was formed by the governor, in your opinion, is anything that the commission can recommend that you or your board doesn't have the authority to recommend right now to the legislature as relates to changes in benefits?
Mr. Chairman, as far as the commission is concerned, I'm not really sure exactly what they could come up with recommendations. There have been things that the PERS board has recommended from time to time or looked at as it relates to retirement benefits or legislation. And as you know, just this past year it was enacted that individuals who retire cannot return to work unless they have a mandatory 90-day break, and the employer now has to pay the employer contributions into the system. Kind of takes away that financial advantage there. But that was a recommendation that the PERS board made to the legislature. The legislature has the authority to set the benefits, to set the rules regarding return to work, as well as the whole statutory framework in which we operate.
To your knowledge, is it any other states that are reviewing, of course I guess they constantly review their system, is any other state, as you know, are you aware of any states, other states that are looking at its retirement system by the executive order or any commission, special commission?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if it's by executive order or not. I do know that a number of systems throughout the country have had study commissions or have studied the retirement benefits as it relates to current members and or future members. There have been, in fact, according to the National Conference on State Legislators, 39 of the 50 states have made changes in 2011 and 2012, and there's legislation that's still pending and could be proposed in this next session. Generally speaking, most of those changes, such as in Mississippi, apply to new hires, and they include increasing the employer contribution, increasing the employee contribution, changing the vesting, changing the final average salary, and changing the retirement eligibility. But as I said, generally speaking, that's for new members, not for existing members.
As it relates to a cost assessment to the employee versus the benefit, did the Supreme Court have Supreme Court ruled that we could not change we could not increase the cost to the employee without increasing some benefits?
Mr. Chairman, I think what you're referring to is the Attorney General opinion to the, I think it's dated February of 2010, in which the Attorney General opined that increasing the contribution rate should be offset by a corresponding increase in benefits. And to do so without that would, and I'm paraphrasing here, so I don't know exactly what it said, but basically would violate that contractual right that the employee has.
Do the board have the authority, the statutory authority, to adjust that without the consent of the legislature?
The board has the statutory authority to adjust the employer contribution rate as the statute is written now, and that was established in 1952 when PERS was established. There was in my opinion, there was a deliberate distinction and break between who had the authority to set the funding requirements for the plan and who had the authority to set the benefit for the plan, to ensure that when there were competing interests that the plan was adequately funded to give the benefits that had been promised to the public employees.
And my last question. I've been told by legislators before me, particularly Ed Perry and those folks that mentor me, that our system is probably the best system in the country. Wouldn't you agree?
I have to say I'm biased, but it depends on how you define best. The benefits that in my opinion, the benefits that we provide are good. The PERS is, in my opinion, again, one of the primary, most important things I think that recruits and retains career public employees.
And my last question is, to your knowledge, is there any recommendation out there to take the 13th check and reinvest it into some other plan to generate money to offset the cost?
I have no idea what you would be referring to.
Okay. Well, it may be a miss, but in my Walmart, they asked me, they say that the government commission wants to take the 13th check and reinvest it into some type of investment program. I guess Wall Street. And I hope we don't go back to Wall Street for anything. But they want to invest it and then take that money and put it back in there to increase the to offset the employer cost to the system.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any idea what you're referring to.
And also, this miss was that the commission wanted to privatize the retirement system. I mean, take it out of the public domain and allow some private investors or people come in and run it.
What I think you may be referring to there, and whether or not the commission is looking at this, I can't really say. I'm not a member of that commission. Is there has been discussion, and it's not just in Mississippi but in other places, about changing from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan, which a defined contribution plan would probably establish a different hierarchy, if you will. Now, granted, Mississippi PERS does operate several defined contribution plans. However, you generally have outside third party that provide the investment vehicles that individuals invest their monies in.
For the record, I'd just like for those persons in Walmart and my barber shop to know that as long as I'm a member of the Mississippi Legislature, I would never relinquish my position on pro-life, and I would never miss with a 13th check.
Representative Collins.
I Pat, it's becoming more obvious to me as we go through this budget hearing that you didn't have a hell of a lot to do with this commission. Now, it was strictly appointed by the Chief Executive Officer of this state.
That is correct.
Were you forewarned that it was coming?
I heard rumors.
So you were not consulted in any shape, form, or fashion as the executive director of one of the top 10